So this is time for a short Dhamma sermon. Actually, we were discussing Anapanasati Sutta, which is available in Majjhima Nikaya. And as I said, this is a beautiful sutta where Buddha preaching Dhamma for many monks, not just for one monk, but the large amount of full gathering of monks. And among them, there are senior arahants as well as junior monks who are, in a way, novices to the sasana. And Buddha at that time understood that they were practicing diligently. And again, they were practicing different methods. As you know, Buddha has taught many different meditation techniques. And many were practicing many different meditation techniques. But then he wanted to give a sort of a common technique which is suitable for most of them, all of them. And as a result, he guided them in Anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing. And there, as you know, probably might have heard, Anapanasati is actually capable of taking us towards the samatha side, that is the concentration part, and as well as towards the vipassana side. In this sutta, actually, Buddha mentioned more towards the vipassana, because he mentioned that Anapanasati bhikkhave bhavita bahuli kata mahappala hoti mahanisansa. Monks, this Anapanasati, mindfulness on breathing, if one practice, gives many benefits and more sublime benefits. And he actually comes up with a strategy and how to develop Anapanasati in order to fulfill all four types of Satipatthana. As you probably have heard, Satipatthana Sutta also has a section on Anapanasati that is in the Kayanupassana section. It is in a way one method of meditation included in Kayanupassana, and it is not available in Vedananupassana, it is not available in Chittanupassana, and it is not available in Dhammanupassana. But in this sutta, Buddha actually comes up with the 16 steps where how to tackle or how to deal with Kayanupassana, how to deal with Vedananupassana, how to deal with Chittanupassana, and how to deal with Dhammanupassana, while keeping Anapanasati as the main primary object. So, as we discussed last time, probably Suranga can show the steps. We were actually extracted certain parts from the sutta, and are you ready, Suranga? Is it if it is possible, you can show the first section, the Anapanasati Sutta, the first four. Actually, it's difficult to see. Okay. The first Kayanupassana section has 4 steps. That is just being aware of in-breath and the out-breath. And there are Sato Vasasati, Sato Passasati is actually not included in the 16 steps. It is a mere attention, kind of just a bare attention on breath. That is how we start our practice. Just keeping Anapanasati as our meditation object and keeping our attention on it again and again, so that our mindfulness starts developed or established. Once it is established, we are going to the first section, that is breathing in long and breathing out long. So this is something we are recognizing. It is not that we are purposely breathing in long or breathing out long, but we recognize when breathing in happens, is it long or is it short? Actually, the second is the short. So we are recognizing whether it is longer or shorter comparatively. Previously, suppose you have experienced a breath. At the beginning, you understood it spent a long time. Long time in the sense, say, a couple of seconds. Suppose it lasted for 10 seconds. And Now if it is lasted only for 5 seconds, so comparatively you can understand the present breath was short, or present in-breath is short. Similarly, the out-breath, previous out-breath, if it was long, assume it was 10 seconds, and now this one has completed within 5 seconds, then you can understand the present breath, present out-breath is shorter. So you are now recognizing these subtle aspects of the breath, and this leads to further refinement of mindfulness. And actually we are stepping onto the sampajanya, what we call as clear comprehension. You know, the breath itself is a very subtle object, very refined object. So in order for someone to recognize these very fine details, so his mindfulness has to be very sharp. So then Buddha is taking us to the third step, that is experiencing the whole body of breath. Sabbakaya patisangvedi asasisamiti sikkati. Where one can understand the whole in-breath and whole out-breath. It is like a Gaussian curve where you are starting with a very fine level and then it is increasing and then you are reaching the middle and ultimately it is fading away. So there's a beginning, very subtle, gradual beginning, and then it is increasing. That is the middle. And then we are coming to the end, and then ultimately it disappears. So beginning, middle, and the end of the in-breath. And there's a slight gap at the end of that. And then there's a beginning of the out-breath that also very similar. Where you can understand how one can, when the out-breath happens, that also starts gradually, and then the intensity increases, that where you can feel it properly, feel it well, and then it also fades away. Then after a little gap again, you come across the next in-breath. So this is a kind of a cycle, and this is where one has to recognize that. And if you are able to recognize these different phases of breath, then that indicates our mindfulness is further refined, clear comprehension further refines, and as a result, the whole breath starts to calm down. Whole body starts to calm down. Actually, breath and body is almost combined. So if the breath is calmed down, the body is also calmed down. If breath is sort of agitated, so the body also is agitated. So there's a big relationship, strong relationship between the breath and the body. And here actually we are paying more attention on breath, and accordingly the whole body actually change. Whole body, how it behaves actually change. So once it comes to the number 4, where breath starts to calm down and the body also calms down, and we have to facilitate that. And we should not misunderstand thinking our mindfulness has reduced or our mindfulness has dropped. Instead, what has happened is the breath has refined. So it is now a very subtle object. So it's almost very difficult to recognize whether it is the in-breath or out-breath. So there is some sort of a sensation, but you can't recognize whether it is in-breath or out-breath. Now we are reaching so far all these 4 steps Buddha says belongs to the Kayanupassana. And next we are reaching the Vedananupassana section. So if breath calms down and the body almost appear very lighter, then there's a possibility of sensations, kind of pleasant sensations to arise. They could be pleasurable sensations like goosebumps or like waves, like floating, sort of blissful experiences. All sort of these kind of pleasurable experiences can happen, and that indicates piti patisangvedi asasi samiti sikkati. So we can recognize them. And similarly, the number 6, sukha patisangvedi. So once these little gross level of pleasurable feelings fades away, there's a kind of a very contented feeling, sort of a happiness available throughout the body, throughout the mind, and that also has to be recognized. And most importantly, we have to recognize all these rather than trying to expect them or rather than trying to identify with them. So we basically have to recognize them like an outsider, and you are being outside. Now you understand, okay, the body is going through some pleasurable feelings. The body is feeling comfortable. The body is feeling happy. And the mind is feeling contented. All these you are recognizing like an outsider. And then we come to number 7, Chitta Sankara Patisangvedi Asasisamiti Sikkati, where you are now recognizing various feelings as well as various perceptions. Various signs also can appear. It is not that everyone may see all these perceptions, but there's a possibility of various perceptions to happen, various signs, mental images to appear. But we have to be very cautious here, not to give any value to them, not to go after them. Even if you see a Buddha image, even if you see a pagoda, or even if you see a skeleton, or even if you see a kind of a dangerous devil image, they are just mental images. So don't worry of them, simply understand they are mental images because your eyes are closed. So whatever you see as images are simply perceptions. So Buddha warns us, telling all perceptions are like mirage, they are not real. So we don't need to give any value to them because they are merely mirage, not water. They are not real. So as a result, we are now allowing them to fade away. That is the number 8. Pasambhayan Chitta Sankharang Asasisamiti Sikkati, where we are allowing all the perceptions and feelings, mental images, signs, all to calm down. And then if we are succeeded in that section, then we can get on to the 9th step that actually belongs to Chittanupassana. So in Chittanupassana section, we are in a position to look at the mind. So far, very much we are looking the body with the mind, but now we are looking the mind through the mind. So when one reaches this stage, so he basically supposed to have fair amount of mindfulness. He already gained some amount of mindfulness where he is capable of looking the mind through the mind. And again, we need to understand we are not restricting the mind. We are not restricting the mind or confining the mind or concentrating the mind purposely, but rather we open up the mind. We allow the mind to play as it likes, because the yogi has some confidence about his own practice, about his own mindfulness. So he understands that the mindfulness is available even when mind plays, even when mind goes through various defilements. Still, one has the capacity to look at those defilements objectively. Suppose the mind is going through some angry feeling, angry thought, and you can recognize that. If mind is going through some lustful thought, one can recognize that. Not getting caught to them, not identifying with them. So this is the difference. So if you are capable of doing that, then all that also calms down. And as a result, mind feels more lighter, more spacious, and sort of a contentment, sort of a serenity is possible. So therefore, number 10, Abhippamodayan Chittang Asasisamiti Sikkati. You can recognize now mind is in a very comfortable, less burdened kind of a situation. So then that actually paves the way to further calming down of the mind, because the body almost have disappeared. There are no irritations or pains to disturb, and all the perceptions also calm down. No signs, no images, mental images, and now the mind also very calm. There are no defilements, and as a result, we come to number 11, Samadhan Chittang Asasisamiti Sikkati, where mind is now more tranquil. And there actually you can understand, if we can let go of the body, if we can let go of the feelings, and if we can let go of perceptions, and again if we can let go of various fabrications, sankhara, so ultimately the mind becomes completely free. So that is where vimochayan chittang asasi samiti sikkati, number 12, where the mind becomes temporarily free from all the other aggregates. In other terms, the vijnana becomes free from rupa, the form, free from vedana, the feeling, free from sanya, the perceptions, and again it's not making any sankharas, not making any fabrications, so it's very much still, and now it is free. This is actually very temporary, because mind is used to grasp, used to cling, used to hold so many things. Therefore, after a short freedom, after a short emptiness, again mind goes and grabs something. Now we can come to the Dhammanupassana section, that is number 13. Now, if yogi understood that I can experience some amount of freedom, some amount of spaciousness in the mind, and there are various phenomena coming and going. Now, if you pay attention to the body, there are various sort of stiffness, there are hardness, there are lightness, heaviness, irritations, and all these different characteristics are available in the body. They also come and go. They also appear, then last for a seconds, and then disappear. And if you see even the breath, and they also manifest, breath also manifests like sometimes warm, sometimes cool, and sometimes sort of rubbing sensation, and some sort of movements, and all these appear and then disappear. They are transitory. They are actually not lasting for a long time, but they are very transient. They are quite impermanent. So therefore, once it comes to Dhammanupassana section, this aniccanupassi, asasisamiti sikkati, indicates that we can observe various phenomena with an eye of impermanence. So we actually understand they are coming and going. They are not permanent. They are very transitory. So it is applicable to the body, it is applicable to the feelings, it is applicable to the perceptions, and it is applicable to sankharas. So therefore, if Suranga can get on to that diagram, if you can show that diagram, in that diagram what I tried to indicate is that this Dhammanupassana section is valid, or you can introduce to Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana and Chittanupassana. What I am trying to tell is, you can look at various bodily phenomenon as impermanent, or various feelings as impermanent, or various mental thoughts as impermanent. That's why I am trying to say this Dhammanupassana section is kind of a common characteristic where you can look at either Kayanupassana, you can actually apply this impermanence, contemplation on impermanence, you can apply to the body, that is towards the Kayanupassana, you can apply it to the Vedananupassana, or you can apply it to the Chittanupassana. Actually in Satipatthana Sutta, it is very clearly mentioned in Kayanupassana section. Say for example, Samudaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Viharati, Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Viharati, Samudaya Vaya Dhammanupassiva Kayasmin Viharati. So that is where the yogi is looking at the body with an eye of impermanence. So he is now seeing the transitory nature of the bodily phenomena. Same thing here, where when you reach contemplating impermanence, that is in the Dhammanupassana section, where your mind is now capable of seeing the impermanence. More and more, suppose various phenomena appear, and if it is bodily phenomena, assume that again you start to feel the body, and you feel some touch sensations, you feel some heaviness, you feel some lightness, you feel some irritations, you feel some movements. All these different characteristics, you can see that they appear, and after a while they disappear. They come and go. They are quite transient. So you can recognize this impermanence. And if you apply it to the feelings, Vedana, so that is also the same. Suppose there's a happy feelings arise, and it also appear and then disappear. And if it is the painful feeling, it was not available before, but now there's a painful feeling arising. And after a while, it also disappears. And there was no pleasurable feeling. Okay, now there's a pleasurable feeling arising. And after a while, it is also disappearing. There's a kind of a pleasurable, pleasant feeling, and it is changing to, say, equanimous feeling. So now an equanimous feeling arises. And after a while, it disappears. So as likewise, you can apply this impermanence, contemplation on impermanence, to Vedana as well, to various feelings as well. Either it may be pleasurable feelings, either it may be painful feelings, or it may be neither painful nor pleasurable feelings. That is the equanimous feelings. So you can apply this impermanence to the feelings as well. And again, you can apply it to the mind. Assume there's a kind of a desire arising in the mind. So you can look at it, how it arises and how it disappears. So there you recognize, okay, it is coming and going. It is not permanent. It is not lasting forever. So you just have to observe it like a third person. This desire doesn't belong to you. And if you make this distance, so then you understand, okay, it also coming and going. It is also not permanent. It is also not everlasting. It is also transitory. And assume there's a lustful thought arise. The mind was not lustful before, but now, due to some reason, there's a lustful thought arise. And you can understand, okay, it is also arising. And after a while, it also fades away. It's also passing away. That is also impermanent. There's a loving kindness thought arise. And you can understand, okay, it is also arising. It is also now changing. It is also passing away. There is a compassionate thought arise. It is also arising. It is lasting for some time. Also changing. And again, it is passing away. We are not encouraging any wholesome thoughts here. And we are not suppressing any unwholesome thoughts. We look at them. We look at both categories objectively. They are merely thoughts. They are all impermanent. They are all transitory. They all come and they all go. So to understand this impermanence is actually a part of Dhammanupassana. So this understanding can be applicable to the body, to the perceptions, to the thoughts, to the feelings, and whatever is appearing, you can apply. So that's why you can't predict actually to which I need to particularly apply it. So since if the yogi is capable, if he went through Kayanupassana, Vedananupassana, Chittanupassana, and he is now skillful, he can apply the eye of impermanence to everywhere, anywhere. Say if there is a bodily feeling arise, now you can observe it and understand how impermanent it is, how transient it is. There's a feeling arise, you can apply similarly. Now, so more and more you do it, all these starts to fade away. So So as a result, now the yogi have some sort of a dispassion towards his mind, because he has no grasping to them. Even various bodily sensations arise, he understood now they are coming and going. I don't need to bother much. I don't need to grasp them. I don't need to give much value to them. Even it's a pleasurable feeling, I don't need to hold it strongly, because it is quite impermanent. They come and go. So that previous passion he had, previous grasping he had, the attitude of clinging he had is no more. Now it has changed into a kind of a dispassion. So the number 14 is viraganupassī, asasitsamiti sikkati. So you are now very much looking at the whole process with a kind of a viraga, kind of a dispassion. You are not going to grasp any of them. Either it may be bodily phenomenon, either it may be feelings, either it may be perceptions, signs, mental images, thoughts, whatever it is, you are very much disengaged. You are not trying to own them. You are not trying to possess them. You are not trying to identify with them. You are not encouraging them. So you are now disengaged. You have some distance from them. So you can look at them. So that is where viraganupassī. And then nirodhanupassī. And you can see they all faded away. They all passed away. And there is a sort of an emptiness. There is a sort of a cessation. So since you didn't try to suppress any of these, since you didn't try to encourage any of these, so they all appear due to various causes, and you were objectively looking at them, objectively watching them, observing them, and they come to their natural cessation. You didn't do any kind of a forceful cessation, but rather all these phenomena comes to their natural cessation. So if something comes to a natural cessation, there's a possibility for another one to avoid coming for a smaller period of time. What I'm trying to tell is, so if something passes away due to natural causes, so there are due to causes something arisen, and those causes fade away, passed away, ceased, and the result also passed away, ceased. If the causes are no more, if the causes are not available, so this phenomena cannot arise. So there's a little gap with nothing, basically. So this cessation one can experience, that is nirodha, that there is nothing there. There is kind of a spaciousness. There is a gap. There is an emptiness. There is a kind of a void. So one can see that void again and again. One can put his hand or his attention to that void. So this void and that number 12 in the Vimochayan Chittang is the similar. So when the mind becomes free, so basically what it touches is this voidness, this emptiness, this spaciousness. And here number 15, Nirodhanupassī, where yogi is actually seeing more to the Nirodha side, the fading away side, passing away side. So as a result, mind get on to this Nirodha, get on to this cessation, touching the emptiness more and more. And number 16 is Patinissagganupassī asasitsamiti sikkati, where when whatever the phenomenon arises, so the yogi is ready to relinquish it and apply his attention back to that emptiness, back to that spaciousness. So actually Patinissagganupassī has two sides. One is Parichāga Patinissagga, where you are giving up the arisen phenomena. You are not holding it. You are not encouraging it. You are not grasping it. And then you establish yourself again back in that cessation, back in that emptiness, back in that spaciousness. That is the Pakkandana Parinissagga. So number 16, Parinissagganupassi, basically has two levels. So rather than levels, small, very much like two sides, where you are relinquishing the recent phenomena and establish yourself back in that emptiness. That is the Pakkandana Parinissagganupassi, where you back in that emptiness. So therefore, very beautifully, Buddha explains this whole sutta, these 16 steps, especially number 13, 14, 15 and 16, they are purely Vipassana. Purely Vipassana point of view, how one can see impermanence of body, feelings, perceptions, formations, fabrications, and seeing every phenomena like with a viraga, with a dispassion, not holding, not grasping. And again, Nirodhanupassi, that is more having sort of a seeing more the cessation side, fading away side, passing away side, and very much driving the mind more towards the emptiness, more towards the cessation, more towards the spaciousness. So the mind becomes more and more empty, more and more spacious, more and more clear, and less burdened, and still, quiet, and all these properties, all these characteristics one can recognize by going through this practice. So I think it is enough for today. It's in a way little deep subjects dealt today in terms of the Dhammanupassana section. So with that information, with that short sermon, I would like to conclude today's sermon, and I open up the session for questions.
Sorry, Bhante. So there are 7 questions today.
Yeah.
Question 1 of 7. Sitting mindfulness. Dear Venerable Swamin Wansa, when I do sitting practice, I develop some aches and pains around my hips at times. I concentrate on the pain and then come back to the breathing after a few seconds. The pain disappears. I thought this is Vedananupassana meditation until your sermon last week. So am I incorrect to think this is Vedananupassana? Can you kindly explain? Thank you. May you attain Nibbana. That's the end.
Actually, in Vedananupassana, it is no big difference. The point is, when you are in the Vedananupassana section, you are skillful, you are capable to look at feelings objectively. You are not taking them personally, you are not sort of having any kind of a disappointment, displeasure towards them. You are not adding towards any pain. Rather, you can endure pain. You can observe pain objectively. So that's the difference. So one needs to develop this attitude. So at the beginning stage, we don't have that attitude. So at the beginning, in a way, we have to overcome Vedana with some posture change. So you are simply avoiding pain. Because so far, still we are not capable, skillful to handle pain. But as you progress, you are coming to a region, coming to an area where you can handle pain. You can endure it. You can look at it. You can disengage from pain and look at pain as pain. It is not my pain. It is not kind of an attitude that why this pain comes to me, why all others are sitting very quietly, very blissfully, why all these pains are coming to me. So that is looking at the pain with the personality view. You are personifying. You are looking in a wrong direction, with a wrong viewpoint, wrong angle. But in Vedananupassana, Vedana, feeling, is looking at or observing purely objectively. It is happening due to causes, especially due to contact, phassa, and as a result of that, various feelings are arising. When contact is available to produce pleasurable feeling, so then the pleasurable feeling arises. When contact is available to produce painful feeling, then painful feeling arises. When there is a category of contact producing neutral feeling, so then neutral feelings arise. So the contact is the main cause, and with respect to the causing contact, there are different types of feelings arise, and they also come and go. None of them are permanent. And at the beginning, the feeling appear like feeling appear like one unit, one single pain, one single pleasure. But more and more you look at it, and it starts to divide. And there may be many pains, or many pleasures, many happiness. And even if you look at it more closely, probably there are hundreds, thousands of little feelings. A collection of feelings may be available. So this is the kind of the more refined, more kind of advanced level of looking at Vedana, various feelings, where your sampajanya, clear comprehension, has fairly developed. So you can recognize various facets of Vedana, various components of Vedana, and more clearly, and recognizing how they each subtle, little feelings are arising, and how instantly they pass away. And then how at another place another feeling arises. So likewise, you are now investigating pain, investigating pleasure, investigating equanimity. So this is, we can say, more into Vedananupassana. So slowly you can get on to
that. Question number 2. 2 of 7. Day-to-day activities. Venerable Sir, last time you mentioned a technique to use if we get any high emotional thoughts, which are somewhat easy to catch. In such a situation, the guidance is to be mindful as much as possible to observe the rising of the emotion, detach, and then wait as a third person without reacting while it is brewing in the mind, and eventually observe how it is vanishing without our involvement. I have used this technique successfully several times, and thank you for your valuable advice. My observation is that it takes 5 to 10 seconds, or short time, for these emotions to arise. And that's even if we are lucky enough to catch and observe them. And the dance lasts longer, so that's usually 2 to 3 minutes, and then the vanishing part takes forever, sometimes 10 to 15 minutes. Mathematically, it is pretty left-skewed curve towards 0, and it has a long tail. I was expecting a standard bell curve where rising and vanishing happens with equal probability. Presume with the practice, my left-skewed and rather crooked bell curve flattens out a bit. Thank you for the guidance. That's the end.
Yeah, I think here for emotions you can't apply this bell curve. It is very much like going up and down, where the time taken to fade away might vary. So say actually what you did is correct, but how it fades away might be different. We can't predict what would be the pattern, how they are. Basically you can come up with some sort of a pattern where at the beginning, say 1 month ago, suppose once the emotion arises, so you couldn't recognize it immediately at its inception, but you could only recognize it after a couple of seconds. But now we are applying mindfulness to it. Now we are observing it. Now it lasted for, say, a couple of minutes, say 5 minutes, and then it faded away. And that also took another 1 minute, 2 minutes. But after another 1 month, so the picture actually change. Now you can recognize it at its inception, maybe within a couple of seconds, maybe within 3 seconds, 2 seconds you can recognize. And once you recognize it at its inception, so then it may not come to very high level. So as a result, it quickly passes away. So likewise, you can see this whole pattern change. So with mindfulness improvement, you can see that mindfulness becoming stronger and stronger just by looking at it, just by recognition is fair enough for these emotions to passing away. So therefore, more and more we look at them objectively, more and more we observe them, less and less impact, and they become weaker and weaker, and mind becomes more clear. And even when a slight thought of emotion arising, so you can recognize it, you can understand, rather than fertilizing it, rather than identifying it as mine or me. Now you can see it, you can observe it, how it is coming, due to what causes, due to what reasons it is coming. So how inner chatter trying to pops up, inner chatter trying to add to it. So our likes and dislikes going to make some changes, and our past memories trying to hook into it, trying to attach to it. So all these are trying to contribute towards this emotion. But if we are quite wise, so we can see them objectively, we can see this mechanism, and we can avoid it. We don't need to become a victim of this process. So as a result, this starts to dissolve. It doesn't strengthen, rather it becomes dissolving. It starts to disappear. So this is the kind of the behavior of these emotions.
Question number 3 of 10. This has 2 parts, Bhante, so I'll do the mindful sitting and then we'll go to the second part. Venerable Bhante, I started very freshly as a beginner and I have been continuing sitting practice for about 2 months, according to your guidance. I occupationally do walking practice, but prefer sitting meditation. I practice about 4 to 5 times per week while playing your recorded instruction on the website. My prominent feeling is rising and falling, and from time to time I try to concentrate to the breath around the nostril, but it didn't work for me. Now I am concentrating only on the rising and falling. As usual, my mind is always wondering about the past and future, but immediately it clicks to me and I drag it and continue my meditation practice. My question is, all steps described under Anapanasati Sutta is based on breath. How do I relate my current practice to breathing practice steps? Do I need to anyhow learn breathing practice to continue my meditation towards success? Much merits for your guidance. That's the end.
Yeah, actually, rising and falling also very much analogs to this 16 steps, where at the beginning it is more into the Kayanupassana section, where you understand the body, or rather the abdomen is rising and then falling, rising and then falling. And then you are now removing the concept of this abdomen, but rather you can see the movement. There's a slight movement. There's a stiffness. There's a kind of a lightness. All these different element characteristics you can recognize. At the beginning it appears like a whole process, but now this whole process, or rather one single phenomena, now it starts to dissolve, to divide into various different things. Say for example, during rising, so the minor levels of movements. It's a collection of movements. And ultimately it comes to sort of a stiffness. That is the place it stops. And there's a little gap. Then it is coming back. There's a falling cycle. There's again a collection. Movements of collection. So more and more you recognize that, then more we are into Kayanupassana section. So if this whole process calms down, then the whole body appears quite lighter. You don't feel much heaviness. Whole body becomes quite lighter, and it's like floating. All rising and falling almost disappear. You can't distinguish whether now rising happens or falling happens. So it's very much like everything calmed down. Now there's a possibility of pleasurable feelings to arise. Now we are in the Vedananupassana section. And if you are capable of recognizing them, now you can go through the second section of Anapanasati Sutta. Number 5, 6, 7, 8. So that all belong to Vedananupassana. So it also can happen while going through rising and falling. And then that also disappears and that also calms down, and then one can look at the mind. We are back in the Chittanupassana section. Because whether this rising and falling purely is more biased towards the Vipassana, and Anapanasati also, in this sutta, Buddha is explaining more towards Vipassana. Not into the Samatha practice, not into the concentration practice, but more into the Vipassana practice. So rising and falling directly actually taking us towards Vipassana. So how it manifests is very analogous with this Anapanasati Sutta. So therefore you can understand now with this information, you can try to understand where you are. According to Anapanasati, these 16 steps, you can understand where you stand in your practice.
So this is part 2, same person. This is day-to-day activities. Now I try my best to keep focus on my mind in my day-to-day life. It doesn't mean I 100% focus, but within a few seconds, I can realize if I go away. Then I take it back and concentrate to my work. I drive a lot for my office work. During driving, I had a practice to listen to songs and radio. But after joining with this program, I try my best to focus to my body vibration and different sections of my body to improve my concentration. When I feel bored, I again start listening to music. Do you have any advice to improve my daily life concentration? Much merits for your guidance. That's the end.
Yeah, you can remove the cassette player. So that actually helps you to endure boredom, because boredom is also a part of the practice. So don't expect to get rid of boredom. Instead, when boredom arises, so you need to be with it. We need to understand. So the point is, we always want to get rid of this boredom. So boredom is nothing but equanimous feelings. We are actually shifting from pleasure to pain. So this is like a pendulum. We are always either on the pleasure side or we may go through some pain. But whenever we go through some equanimous feeling, we don't want to be there. We always want to get rid of it. We always want to have some pleasure. So again we listen music. Again we go to the movies. We again watch TV. And we again maybe go to internet or call a friend, take a newspaper. This is how we always try to get rid of this boredom. But the mindfulness practice helps us to understand this boredom. Just be with this boredom. Because if you always have an attitude of getting rid of boredom, then actually it's difficult to go through. Because this boredom actually has a big relationship with this equanimity, equanimous feeling. So therefore don't switch on your, say, cassette player or CD player. So try to maybe at least a couple of minutes enhance this period. Say, for example, you are able to be aware of whole process 10 minutes. After that, you switch on the cassette player. Maybe next day, you are being aware of for 15 minutes. Now you have enhanced the period, 15 minutes. And then maybe you switch on the cassette player. Next day, maybe you are enduring it, experiencing it for 20 minutes. And then you are switching on the cassette player. So likewise, you can enhance it. You can increase the time period. So ultimately, you don't need to switch on the cassette player. And so likewise, slowly, you can simply come back to you, because this news, cassette players, TV, and all these things take our attention outside. We are driven outside. But mindfulness practice requires coming to ourselves, coming back to ourselves, observing more and more ourselves. So therefore, change that attitude and don't worry. You don't need to do it immediately. Slowly, gradually you can do it.
Question number 4 of 10. It's a general question. Dear Venerable Sir, it is very helpful to know and understand in the detail the 16 steps of breathing meditation, based on your explanations in the Dhamma Talk series. I recall that you mentioned that it's not mandatory and essential that we follow each and every step as a sequence. There can be gaps and unclear areas, and we should take them as signposts. Also, we have heard that when we start the meditation, we should have a beginner's mind at all times. Does that mean in practice we forget about the 16 steps and start the meditation without any pre-knowledge or expectations of a state and let it go as it unfolds? At what point should we compare our experience with the signposts in the scriptures with metta? That's the end.
Yeah, exactly. That is the correct approach. We don't need to remember all these 16 steps. And on meditation, we don't need to compare ourselves whether I'm sitting on Kayanupassana or whether now the piti arise, all these things. If you are trying to memorize all these 16 steps and try to apply it while in meditation, then it's a big trouble. And then, we are actually putting the cart before the horse. But rather, where this information helps us is after the session. Say you went through the sitting session, now you open your eyes, and then you want to sort of have a kind of a height view of what has happened. You are simply looking back. You are very much like doing an introspection of what has happened during the meditation session. So at that time you can see, okay, during first say 10 minutes it was going through like this kind of a situation, this kind of an experience, and after that it has switched to this kind of a situation, and after that it has switched to this sort of a situation. So likewise you can see that different phases are there available in the experience, and that you can have a kind of an analogy between these 16 steps. So that is for your clarity of understanding. Just the Suttame Jnana, and maybe in order to understand how each of your session has contributed to a Satipatthana. Because we need some amount of convincing happen. Because if we don't know where we are going, because time to time, now say you are going on a trip. So time to time you are looking at the advertisements, you are looking at the name boards, you are looking at the signpost, just to know that, just to clarify, okay, I am in the correct track, I am in the correct route. So similarly, you do your practice with an empty mind, with a beginner's mind, and at the end of the session, you can compare your experience with this knowledge, with this Suttame Jnana, and then you know, okay, I am in the correct track. Yeah.
Question number 5 of 11. This is a fairly long one, a long report, but it's on walking mindfulness. Venerable Bhante, This report is regarding my walking practice based on the last 2 to 3 sessions. Usually I find time for 1 hour practice per day. I start focusing on the soles of my foot and observe the sensations, noting left and right. After a few minutes, when I clearly start observing the sensations, the noting drops off automatically. I can identify how each foot is touching the ground based on the pressure, first on the heel, then the weight transfer around the outer edge to the small toe, and then one after the other, all the toes get involved bearing the weight up to the big toe. I observe that the big toe then pushes the leg backwards, transferring the weight to the ball of the foot, which continues the push until the other foot touches the ground. During this process, I also observe that I cannot feel the areas between the ball of the foot and the heel. Also, I can identify some small differences of this process between the left and right foot, which gives me indications of this is left or this is right. I can also feel heat and cold sensations between some areas of each foot, which vary based on the left or right side. After 10 to 15 minutes, these clear and vivid sensations start to fade away, and sometimes I could hardly identify which foot is left or right. Another indication during this stage is sleepiness, which creeps in automatically. However, based on Bhante's guidance, I exert more vigilance and attention on the feet when sleepiness starts, and it gets gradually cleared off within a few minutes. The other usual observation during the stage is the wandering mind, which drifts to different thoughts. Since the sensations are blurred, the mind usually drifts to various thoughts. When I realize that I am not with the walking sensations anymore, I note them as thoughts and wait till the mind comes back to the blurred sensation. Sometimes the sensations become sharp again, and the mind stays with the walking process for another 4 to 5 minutes. The cycle repeats. Blurring happens, mind drifting is observed, and waiting till it comes back to the walking. I feel happy when the mind comes back by itself. It appears like playing a video game, but in a cool, relaxed manner. This is the usual process till the session ends, which makes me calm and relaxed at the end. This relaxed, happy feeling lasts about 30 minutes after the session as well. I can feel the relaxation and heightened alertness in the whole body for some time, like a flux, and it fades away slowly when engaged in daily activities. Much merits for your valuable guidance, Bhante. That's the end.
Yeah, actually, if you are experiencing this kind of situation, when it is impossible or hard to recognize whether it is left leg or right leg, it is not needed actually. So all these typical conceptual information actually disappear with the practice. It's very similar. I mean, say in Anapanasati Sutta, we were explaining you that at the beginning we can see, okay, this is the in-breath, this is the out-breath. But then we are forgetting about that information. It's conceptual information, but we are more going towards the real information. That is the law, whether it is arising, whether it is changing, whether it is calming down. So once we reach the 4th stage, we can't distinguish. We don't know whether it is the in-breath or whether it is the out-breath, because that information has lost. So just a kind of a sensation is available. And if we try to put a label, stick a label telling, okay, this is the in-breath, this is the out-breath, it happens at the nostril. But then actually we don't know the kamatana. We don't know the instruction. We should not complicate the situation, make the situation complex. Rather, we have to allow the process to simplify. So similarly here also in walking meditation, so at the beginning, suppose as you have mentioned, so we may be applying kind of a label. This is left, this is right, this is left, this is right. But with time, we have to allow it to fade away. Now with a quiet mind, silent mind, we are simply observing it. So you feel it, okay? There's a kind of a sensation in a leg. On next leg also there's a kind of a touching sensation. There's a stiffness, there's a hardness. So, and ultimately, even these things disappear. And they also coming and go. And now you don't know whether it is left or right, or whether you are sort of in a particular room, or Australia or Sri Lanka, and all this information is lost. We don't need actually that information at that refined level. We don't need to get them. But rather we are now more into a very refined reality, more kind of fundamental levels of our experience. And that is where we need to understand how fragile these things are, how transient these experiences are. Say, sort of a hardness arises and it passes away. Softness arises, it passes away. Then roughness arises, it passes away. Kind of movement arises, it passes away. Throughout the whole body, maybe even. Not just because, not just on the soles, not just in the, say, legs, but throughout the whole body, various sensations arise and pass away. So you probably can get on to that kind of a picture while in walking meditation. So if that kind of a thing happens, so mind opens up. Mind cannot be sort of kind of hold on to anything. You are not memorizing anything, but rather kind of an open mind, which is utterly in the present moment and seeing how things are arising and passing away. So we are more get on to the deep levels of vipassana. So therefore, don't complex your experience, rather allow it to become more and more simple, simplified, and more refined.
This is just a general question that's come in. This program is very effective and helpful to gain mindfulness with very valuable instructions. Is there any program conducted by Bhante in Sinhala medium to join our Sri Lankans who are not good in understanding English? That's the end of the question.
So far, I mean, there is no such online session. But if any of you are interested, I can support it. But I mean, at the moment, there is no any online Sinhala session. But Bhante Dhammajiva is conducting, and there are actually virtual retreats started. Today, Bhante Dhammajiva started a 3 days virtual retreat, and there is another virtual retreat online. And actually, on coming Saturday, we are starting the one-day retreats in Nissarana Vanaya. That's on 8th. We have the one-day session. And likewise, we are starting our residential retreat slowly. But there is no any kind of online session that I am working on Sinhala medium. But I mean, I can consider it if any of you are sort of organizing it.
Bhante, sorry, we've gone a little bit over time. Is it okay if we continue?
Yeah.
We've got about another 5 questions. Question number 6 of 11, sitting mindfulness. Dear Bhante, I haven't been practicing sitting for some time. However, every time I sit, I am able to sit for hours, not feeling the body. I have only sat thinking, I am here and now. The present moment awareness unknowingly. I have always been in the present moment in day-to-day work and have trained mindfulness. I have not seen my breath, but I have been with my thoughts. I have seen thoughts coming and going. I have not chased after them. At times the mind was silent. However, lately I started listening to Bhana, and this is the first time I'm listening to Anapanasati Sutta. My question is, do I have to go step by step looking at my breath, then checking for Vedana and so on? Much merits, Bhante. That's the end.
Yeah, no, not at all. Actually, if your practice is into this level, you don't need to go through again on these Anapanasati sections. Rather, you can observe the mind more and more. because as you can see, it's a kind of a gradual process. Here in the instructions, it's more generalized. It's given for a beginner, how a beginner may grow towards the different stages. And if we have practiced using various other techniques and we are now capable of watching the mind, how thoughts are arising and passing away, and even if we can dwell in the emptiness, and if this kind of situation is there, you don't need to go back to Anapanasati. You can simply continue your practice.
For question number 7 of 11, I'll pass to Chamlanti. It's a Sinhala and English part.
Okay, as I answer this question, they sent in Sinhala. So I'll read the Sinhala question first, and I've done a little translation of it. And then I'll present so that the others can also understand. Question is, ගෞරවනීය ස්වාමීන් වහන්සේ සතර සතිපට්ඨාන භාවනාව කරන විට පළමුවෙන් කායානුපස්සනාව, දෙවනුව වේදනානුපස්සනාව, තුන්වෙනුව චිත්තානුපස්සනාව, අවසානයේට ධම්මානුපස්සනාව යන පිළිවෙලටම භාවනාව සිදු කළ යුතුද? එසේත් නැත්නම් ඕන පිළිවෙලකට මෙම භාවනාව සිදු කළ හැකිද? කායානුපස්සනාව කරන විට ශරීරයේ වේදනාවල් දැනේ. එම වේදනාවේ විපරිණාම දැකීම වේදනානුපස්සනාවද? අනුකම්පා කර උපදෙස් දෙන්න. I'll read the English question as well. Dear respected Bhante, when practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness, should we follow the order of first Kayanupassana, then Vedananupassana, third Chittanupassana, and then Dhammanupassana? Or can we practice in any order? When practicing Kayanupassana, I feel pains in the body. Is being aware of the transformation of these pains Vedananupassana? Please explain. It's the end of the question.
ඇත්තටම මෙතනදී ඒ කියන්නේ බැහැ ගන්න අපිට තියෙන්නේ භාවනාවට මේ කායනුපස්සනාව හරහා. මොකද අපිට හිතෙන් හිත බලනවා කියන එක පහසු වැඩක් නෙමෙයි. ඒක බුදුරජාණන් වහන්සේ විශේෂයෙන්ම මේ පොඩි warning එකක් දෙනවා. පොඩි අනුතර ඇඟවීමක් කරනවා මේ හිතින් හිත බලන එකට නැත්නම් මේ චිත්තානුපස්සනාවට එකපාරට එන්න එපාය. ඇවිල්ලා අනුතරය වැටෙන්න වෙනවා අය සතිය දිනුනලා නැත්නම් සම්පජඤ්ඤය දිනුනලා නැත්නම් කියලා. ඉතින් ඒ නිසා අපිට භාවනාව පටන් ගන්න පහසුම තැන තමයි කායනුපස්සනාව. ඒකෙන් තමයි අපි පටන් ගන්නෙ. හුස්ම දිහා බලනවා නැත්නම් පාදයේ ස්පර්ශයක් දිහා බලනවා, සක්මනක අපි යෙදෙනවා. ඊළඟට පිම්බීමක් හැකිලීමක් දිහා බලනවා. ඉතින් මේ විදිහට කයෙන් පටන් ගන්න එක තමයි බොහොම පිරිසුදුව අපිට තේරෙන පහසු තැන. ඒක හැබැයි දිනුනාට පස්සේ ටික ටික මේක හරියට නිකන් අර ක්‍රමානුකූලව වැඩෙන පැලයක් වගේ ඊළඟ කොටසට බොහොම ස්වාභාවිකව අපිව අරගෙන යනවා. අපි දඟලන්න දෙයක් නෑ. ඊළඟ පණින්න ඕනේ, ඉක්මනට ඔන්න වේදනානුපස්සනාවට මං යන්න ඕනේ, ඉක්මනට මම චිත්තානුපස්සනාවට යන්න ඕනේ, ඉක්මනට මම ධම්මානුපස්සනාව වඩන්න ඕනේ කියලා එහෙම කලබලයක් අවශ්‍ය නැහැ. මොකද මේ හැම සෙක්ෂන් එකක්ම හැම පරිච්ඡේදයක්ම හරිම බලවත්. එකක්වත් සුළුපටු නැහැ. කායනුපස්සනාව හොඳට කෙනෙක් දියුණු කරනවා නම් ඒකේ අප්‍රමාණ ප්‍රතිඵල තියෙනවා. අප්‍රමාණ ප්‍රයෝජන තියෙනවා. වේදනානුපස්සනාව කෙනෙක් බහුලීකృత කරනවා නම් ඒකේ අප්‍රමාණ ප්‍රතිඵල තියෙනවා. ප්‍රයෝජන තියෙනවා. චිත්තානුපස්සනාව ඒ වගේ, ධම්මානුපස්සනාව ඒ වගේ. ඒ නිසා චිත්තානුපස්සනාව, ධම්මානුපස්සනාව වඩන්න නම් යම් පමණක සතිමත් භාවයක් අනිවාර්ය වෙනවා. ඒක එකපාරටම කෙනෙකුට පටන් ගැනීමේදී සුදුසු නැහැ. නමුත් කායනුපස්සනාව බහුල වශයෙන් කරන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් එතනින් තමයි අපිට පටන් ගන්න තියෙන්නේ. ඒක වඩාගෙන යනකොට ඉබේටම වේදනානුපස්සනාවට අපි තල්ලු වෙන්න ඉඩ තියෙනවා. ඒක කිසි ගැටලුවක් නැහැ. ඒ නිසා මේතන ඇත්තටම මේ සූත්‍ර දේශනාවලදී මේ පෙන්눔 කරලා තියෙන පිළිවෙල බොහෝ දුරට ඉතින් සාර්ථකයි කියන්න පුළුවන්. නමුත් ඉතින් බොහොම ඉඳලා හිටලා ඇතමෙක් ඉන්න පුළුවන් සමාලාවට මේ බොහොම හේතු සම්පත් තියෙන දියුණු වෙච්ච යම් පමණක සතිමත් භාවයක් තියෙන හිත දිහා බලන්න සෑහෙන නැඹුරුවක් තියෙන ඒකේ හැකියාවක් තියෙන කෙනෙක් ඉන්න පුළුවන්. නැත්තේ නැහැ. ඒ බඳු කෙනෙකුට ඉතින් කෙනින්ම චිත්තානුපස්සනාවෙන් උනත් පටන් ගන්න පුළුවන්. ඒ කියන්නේ අපිට නිකන් ඕනනම් චෙක් කරලා බලන්න පුළුවන් මේ අපි බලන්න ගියාම අපි අහු වෙනවද කියලා. ඒ කියන්නේ හිතන්න දැන් අපේ හිතේ රාගයක් අහු වෙලා රාගයක් දුවනවා නම් අපි ඒ රාගෙ දිහා බලන්න ගිහලා අපි රාගෙට අහු වෙනවා නම් තව රාගෙ උච්ඡන්න වෙනවා නම් ඒ කියන්නේ ඉතින් තාම සතිය දිනුනලා මදි ඒ වගේ දෙයක් කරන්න. එතකොට වඩාම සුදුසුයි මේ කායනුපස්සනාවක් වගේ දෙයක් වඩලා අපේ සතිමත් භාවය දියුණු කරගෙන ඊට පස්සේ ක්‍රමානුකූලව යන ගමන හරිම නිරවුල් කියන්න පුළුවන්. කරදර අඩුයි කියන්න පුළුවන්. අනතුරු අඩුයි කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඊළඟට දැන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් අහනවා මේ කයේ වේදනාව දැනෙනවා ඒක දිහා බලන එක වේදනානුපස්සනාවද කියලා. ඒකට අපි කලිනුත් පිළිතුරක් දුන්නා. يعني වේදනානුපස්සනාවට එනකොට තව ටිකක් අපි බලාපොරොත්තු වෙනවා වේදනාවෙන් අයින් වෙලා වේදනාව දිහා බලන්න පුළුවන් හැකියාවක්. ඒක කායानुපස්සනාව හොඳට හදාගෙන යනකොට ඒ කියන්නේ කායानुපස්සනාවෙන් හැදිච්ච සතිමත් භාවය, හිතේ ඒකාග්‍රතාවය පාවිච්චි කරලා වේදනාවක් දිහා වේදනාවක් වශයෙන් දැක ගැනීමේ හැකියාව ඇති වෙනවා. ඒකට දුක් වේදනාවක් ආවත් අපේ හිතේ අමනාපයක් ඇති කරගන්න නැතුව, ඒකෙන් පැනලා යන්න හදන්න නැතුව, ඒක හොඳට නිරීක්ෂණය කරන්න පුළුවන් හැකියාවක්. ඒක දිහා නිකන් බාහිරින් ඉඳගෙන බලන්න පුළුවන් හැකියාවක් අපි තුළ වර්ධනය වෙලා තියෙනවා නම් එහෙනම් ඉතින් අපි වේදනානුපස්සනාව සඳහා සුදුසුකම් ලැබලා තියෙනවා කියලා කියන්න පුළුවන්. ඉතින් මම ආරාධනා කරනවා අවශ්‍ය නම් චමිලට මේක පරිවර්තනය කරන්න කියලා ඉංග්‍රීසියට. චමිලා.
සයනද මම සයනසට කියන්නේ ඉන්නේ ට්‍රාන්ස්ලේට් කරන්න පුළුවන්ද කියලා.
නෑ චමිලා පොඩ්ඩක් ට්‍රාන්ස්ලේට් කරලා කියන්න.
දැන් කියන්නද? Okay. So the way I understood that is the reason why we have those 4 steps as in that order is because it's mainly easy because you start with the Kayanupassana and focus on the body and then you can move on to the other steps, and also the fact that if you need to have a reasonable amount of mindfulness practice already or your to be able to do Chittanupassana and Dhammanupassana. So if there could be some people who actually do have that ability already and they can start at Chittanupassana, but it is mostly recommended that you start with Kayanupassana because it is more easy for people to start there. So that is the reason why it is recommended to do like that. Is that correct, Sainas?
Yeah, correct. Yes. In the sense, that is what I have mentioned. So basically, it is quite easy to start with Kayanupassana, and because we actually we have to understand that nowadays we are in a more sort of a restless mind. Our minds are not that concentrated. Our minds are not that pure. So we have to start where we are. So there's easy access through Kayanupassana, where various bodily activities, bodily phenomena can be observed using the mind. So that is more direct and that is more possible. And you can even measure your progress. Okay. We'll get on to the next session.
Question number 8 of 11. Dear Bhante, this is a general question. Thank you for your fantastic explanations as usual. I am not this advanced in my practice, but I am a bit confused by step 15 and 16. Sorry for any misunderstandings on my part. You mentioned in step 15 about putting your hand in the void. If you are aiming to do this, will it not evade you? In step 16, you mentioned directing yourself back to cessation. The only thing I know to do right now is to direct myself to breath, which is a gross phenomena. Right now, I can't comprehend how one directs back to cessation. That's the end.
Yeah, actually, that's what I said. This is little where you need to go through fair amount of practice in order to understand this section. Where the idea is that the yogis come across some sort of a non-grasping area. Sort of non-clinging, unattached sort of a possibility is there. So the yogis expected to pay more attention towards that, giving more prominence towards that than holding on to any phenomena. So, I mean, I think some people or the yogis who have experienced this can understand what I am telling, but for a newcomer, when I am telling like this, it's a bit difficult to simply theoretically understand this or to sort of imagine what it is. So don't worry about this. So when you are developing, you may experience this, and then we'll discuss.
Question number 9 of 11. Dear Bhante, it's a general question. Is it possible to reach the ultimate Dhammanupassana state by practicing the walking meditation as well? That's the end.
Yes, can. Definitely can. Because walking meditation can be considered either in the Kayanupassana section or Vedananupassana section. Or while walking, you can even look at the mind and practice Chittanupassana. So therefore, walking can be used for any area. So while walking, so if we are looking at impermanence of various bodily phenomena or various element characteristics, then we are in the Aniccanupassi. Suppose you interpret them like feelings. Okay, there's a equanimous feeling. It is also arising, arisen, and then it passed away. There's a kind of pleasurable feeling. It arisen and then it passed away. So likewise, now we are in the Vedananupassana section, but seeing the impermanence. Similarly, suppose the body is walking, but you are paying more attention towards the thoughts in the mind. So assume there's an angry thought, kind of a resistance in the mind. And it appeared and then it disappeared. Again, mind becomes kind of equanimous. Then there's loving thoughts, loving kindness thought arising. And you are looking at it objectively while walking. Body is walking, but you are looking at the mind. And now the thought disappeared. Now you are actually doing Chittanupassana, but more practicing it by looking at them, all the phenomena, through an impermanence eye. So therefore you can apply the Dhammanupassana section while walking meditation as well.
Question number 10 of 11. It's a theory question. Vandami Bhante, I have heard there are 3 characteristics of people, Vedana, perception, and Sankhara. I can understand perception character when doing the practice. Could you please kindly explain Vedana character, where they grasp in the practice? Much merits. That's the end.
Yeah, Vedana characters are more towards, say when there are various bodily feelings are arising, if we are trying to hold them, if we claim them, if we want to keep them, if we are inviting them, if we are clinging to them, so then we can say, okay, actually this is common to everyone. Typical pleasure principle is a kind of a universal characteristic. So typical approach towards the pain, we all want to get rid of pain. So this is a kind of a common attitude we all have, but there may be little difference in certain people where they are more victimized towards that principle. They are going more after the pleasure. They are more trying to get rid of pain. No patience at all. No endurance at all. So then we can say, okay, they are sort of lacking of any kind of a endurability, any kind of a patience. So we can say like that.
Question number 11, and this is the last one. Mindful sitting. Venerable Bhante, I sit down to my mindful sitting with your guided meditation. I start by looking at my body and my posture. Once I am fairly mindful, I shift my focus to the nose and the breathing. I notice that by this time my breath has become soft and calm, has become fairly soft and calm. Then breath further softens until there is nothing for a few seconds. Then I feel my body bubble up and start to get agitated and start panicking. I stay with this feeling for a while and it calms down. But as it calms down, my breath becomes more gross. The question is this normal, and is it okay not to feel any pleasurable feeling or rapture? And should I endure this agitated state and just observe it? That's the end of the question.
Yeah, correct. Because as I said, now there's a higher possibility that we may come across pleasurable feelings, sort of say lighter kind of a feeling, floating kind of feeling. Those are possible, but they also go up and down. I mean, when with time, so it can go to the other side. There may be little irritations, little itchy kind of feelings, little resistance. So all these things actually come. They also, we have to look at them objectively. So Vedanānupassana, this section actually deals with any side. It may be dukkha, it may be sukha, it may be upekha. That is a painful side, the pleasurable side, as well as the equanimous side. So we can't predict what is going to happen. So that is that very understanding is insight. So that very understanding, we may be expecting some pleasurable feelings, but what actually arisen are, say, unpleasant feelings, irritation, kind of a painful feelings. So there you will understand, okay, I have no governance here. I have no control here. So then suppose you are trying to endure this painful feeling, expecting it to disappear quickly, but it is lasting for a long time. There you understand, okay, this has no control. I mean, they come due to various other causes on which I have no control, and they last due to those causes on which I have no control, and they disappear when they want, not that I want. So more and more we are getting kind of a dispassion. More and more kind of an insight arise on non-self, anatta. So this is how we are actually understanding the impermanence, understanding the unsatisfactoriness, and understanding the non-self. It is not that we are going through various suttas and trying to sort of memorize anything, but by mere observation helps us to practically understand how these things are working, how much transient they are, how much unsatisfactory they are, and how much uncontrollable they are, how much they are beyond our capacity, beyond our level of possessing. So this actually helps us to understand these three characteristics. So therefore you can continue your practice.
Bhante, there's someone who wants to ask a question directly. Do you have time?
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, just give me 1 second. I'll unmute them. Jayanti, you're free to talk.
Actually, this her husband. Garu Swamin Wahanse, I have a small question from you. Yeah. It is not regarding meditation, but as a general question. I'm not young. I'm a bit old, and I'm about to retire one of these days. And I do meditation for quite a long time with the Swamin Wahanse. And my question is, when you start meditating and doing your work, there is a boredness that's coming in, the emptiness, right? So I mean, it's not that I can't do meditation right or wrong, that how do I get rid of, how do I understand this boredness or the emptiness or I think the Swamin Wahanse one day talked about the nibbitava. So how do I handle that situation in a short note? Thank you, Bhante Buddha.
Basically now, when you reach nibbida, that is the dispassion or what you call as disenchantment, where we are, as you said, it is more like boredom, because your mind has no interest on anything. So in behavior wise, it is manifesting like that. On the other hand, when during the meditation, so the mind doesn't want to look at even the bodily phenomena. Mind doesn't want to look at various feelings. And mind is not interested about looking at anything, but rather it likes to be alone, just be. So, I mean, what we need to understand theoretically is our minds get agitated or our minds become thrilled when it is going through some defilements. Say you gain something, you like to see someone, you like to see something, and you like to see music, and all these things actually agitate our mind. All these things stimulate our mind. So it is shifting towards the pleasure side. And on the other hand, we might go through various other side, painful feelings, and it shifts to the other side, the negative side. So continuously we may shifting from this to the other. So, but on the other hand, there is a quite majority of time that we are spending in the equanimous side. So we don't want to know it. That is the problem. We are simply neglecting it. We feel bored, and then we want to jump back to the pleasure side. So we are, as I said in the previous question, we may be calling our friend, we may be watching TV, we may be playing cards, whatever it is, because we don't want to endure this boredom. Actually, what we need to understand is, through the practice, when things fade away, when various thoughts fade away, so ultimately where the mind resides, where the mind stays, is on this equanimity. There is nothing much to do. So if you are trying to do something, it again agitates the mind. It again stimulates the mind. But now mind is in a kind of a restful situation. There is no up and down. It is, I mean, even if it is up and down, it is less. You are in a kind of in the middle regions, very much like in the baseline, not in the up or in the down, or not in the positive or in the negative, but very much in the middle. But unfortunately, we interpret it like a boredom. But mind is resting. So we are not used to rest our mind. We have the syndrome of doing something. Nowadays, now we are in the 21st century, we always want to do something. I hope you understand. We always want to do. I want to do that. I want to do this. I want to read a book. I want to write a book. I want to tell something. I want to write, see it. I want to do it. So likewise, we always want to do. But we are coming through the meditation, we are coming to a region where we have to learn how not to do. Just be. So that is where we are actually plunged into this nibbida, viraga, where the mind is in a rest, without doing anything, without making any fabrication, without making any story, without creating any story. It is in a rest, a stillness. So this is something we need to learn in a way. But this is in a way the natural state of mind. So we actually have gone various picnics and various traveling, tourism and all these things. Now we don't want to come back home. That's the problem. And we feel the home like overseas. We feel the home like alien. We feel our home like sort of strange. But the home, coming back home, is more like a natural, sort of water-like, say simple, direct type of experience. So more and more we dwell in this experience, more and more we dwell in this boredom, we dwell in this just be, then we can actually appreciate it. So don't worry, slowly you develop it. Suppose you can endure it for 5 minutes today. Next day you just be there for 10 minutes. Next day you be there for 15 minutes. Next day you be there for 20 minutes. Likewise, you allow yourself to rest, not doing anything. Then your mind get on to a different paradigm. The mind will understand the value of it. It is not you understand the value of it theoretically, superficially, but rather the mind will understand the value of it. Then there won't be any trouble.
I don't think there's any further questions, so I'll pass to Vanaya for conclusion.
Thank you, Chatumali. I think coming to the end of today's session, we had a very good session. I think Bante had the thank you very much, Bhante, for revealing all these invaluable Dhamma for all of us. It's really really beneficial to all the participants, I think. And so today we did meditation session, and we were listening to valuable Dhamma. So the merits that we all gain, we would like to dedicate to Bhante, and we wish all the good health and long life for you, and we attain Nibbana. So thank you very much for all the participants for participating today's session. I think the participation is really good now. We really it's really encouraging to see all you are getting all the benefits from this session. So thank you very much, and I would like to say Thero Saranai to all of you.
Okay, Thero Saranai.